Hi friends, I'm Katie with Katie on the Spot. Today we are in the amazing 1893 house in Raleigh, North Carolina. It is slated to open in spring of 2025, and we're going to be talking about maintenance on all of their new upholstery. And we're going to go through some maintenance techniques, and then we're going to talk about some specific spots and how to deal with those as well. So, the first thing I would like to introduce you to is beautiful blush velvet. It's polyester. It's nice to know what fiber content you have when you're working with fabric so that you know what you can and can't do and what you should not do, definitely not do. So, in between each guest, these pieces will be vacuumed. This is one of my absolute favorite vacuums, and it's Hoover Porta Power, and you can carry it, and it has multiple heads. It has a little extender pole, so you can technically do your floors too. But you can change between the upholstery head and then a little crevice tool to get the crumbs that show up in the bottom of your sofa or your chair under the cushion. So then it's super easy to use. And then with velvet, because there's a pile to the fabric, you want to find the pile and then vacuuming pull with the pile. Don't go back and forth because you can damage the texture of the velvet. And right here we have a woven blended fabric. I'm not exactly sure what the blend is, but I do know it's blended. And we're going to vacuum it. You don't have to be quite as particular when you're vacuuming this one. So the reason we vacuum regularly and before we're going to do spot cleaning, dry soil removal, if you can get the bulk of the soil out of the way before you start cleaning something, then you've got less particulates that are going to potentially cause problems if you add moisture or if you start spot cleaning something. So a regular vacuuming is going to remove the dry soiling. That's going to help enhance the indoor air quality because all of your textiles are preventing airborne particulates, but then we need to clean out these filters regularly on your rugs as well. So let's say something spills and we find it like a day or two later, there may be a little residue, there may be a little discoloration. Because this is polyester velvet, I'm not afraid to introduce a little bit of moisture to it. I would still say limit the amount of moisture that you put on velvet just because it can cause a little bit of pile distortion. So the first tool that I would like to use when I'm spot cleaning velvet is a microfiber towel. I like the Norwex one because they perform well and they last a long time, and this gray one doesn't transfer color. So I will get this wet in the bathroom kitchen sink or something with as warm of water as you can handle. Squeeze it out really well so there's no dripping, and then fold it into the nice little square or little rectangle. Find your pile, and that's going to be like when you pet your dog from the head to the tail, that would be with the pile. It's going to be smooth that way. So velvet has a primary and a secondary pile. So one is going to go north to south, or north or south, and the other one is going to go east or west. So find which way, like if I go left, I can feel it's kind of ripply. So that's going to be against the pile. And if I go this way, it's smooth. And if I pull it towards me, it's not quite as smooth. If I push it away from me, it's smooth. So because it's a little bit shorter pile velvet, I'm comfortable going either this way or this way. Looks like this way might be a little bit better. So I would take my dampened towel and then just do gentle swipes over the top surface. When you're working on upholstery, we typically say you spot clean seam to seam. So let's say it's a pillow. The seam to seam would be from this seam to that seam so that you're not leaving one spot that's wet, potentially causing a watermark or a texture distortion in just one area. So then on the cushion or on the pillow, it's going to go this way. So let's say somebody snuggled it and, I don't know, drooled or laughed and laughed and drooled, right? People are funny. So then you take this and you're gonna, with your damp microfiber, like gently brush it. This is also a really good technique to just help reset the pile so that it looks smooth and freshened up. And then your fabric might be ever so slightly damp, but we're definitely not over wetting when we do this process. So then when you first do this, let's say there's the little spot of drool on it, you can take a little bit of a neutral spot cleaner like the Eco Clean and mist a little bit onto your towel and just gently work it into that area. With velvet, with polyester velvet, you don't have to be quite as finicky. I still want you to be cautious with it. If it were a different fiber content, cotton or viscose or any blend of something else, you definitely want to keep an eye on how much moisture you're introducing. And then you can put your finger just behind one little fold of the towel and then kind of blot into that area, and then take a clean part of the towel and swipe it to kind of reset and pull out the cleaning product, because you don't want to leave cleaning agent on your fabric because it can reattract soiling. And let's see, there's something like a greasy kind of stain. The better approach to that would be using the powder stain remover, because it's an absorbent compound with a solvent carrier, and it's going to act like dry shampoo for your hair. So before you start, if you feel the spot and it has like a greasy, oily component to it, like salad dressing or I don't know, lip gloss or something like that, I would go straight for the powder, and then you just shake it and spray it on, and it's going to go from like a milky white, wet-ish looking product, and then as it dries, it could take an hour, it could take 30 minutes, it could take 2 hours. It's going to turn very white, almost like Christmas tree flocking, and then you can vacuum it up with your vacuum cleaner, and the absorbent compound will absorb the whatever the oily base spot is. It's also, the absorbent compound can also be used to help prevent watermarking. So let's say you maybe had to be a little bit more aggressive on your spot cleaning than you wanted to be, you can follow up with some of that powder and let that dry in place as the piece is drying, and then it will help prevent like the little ring around the spot that you've worked on. And this is going to follow the exact same protocol. You just won't have to deal with the pile. When you're spot cleaning, the biggest thing you want to remember is we're blotting, we're not scrubbing. So one of the most effective ways to get agitation without scrubbing is by tamping. And you can put, I like a white cotton towel because cotton is very absorbent, whereas the microfiber is adsorbent, and microfiber is going to grab the pieces on the outside but not actually absorb it into the towel. The white cotton is going to actually absorb whatever spot that you're working on. So you can take you can put a little spot cleaner on what you're working on. Let's say it's on this cushion right here. You put your little spot cleaner on your spot, put your towel over it, and then tamping is basically the slapping motion. You know, hold it pretty far down on the handle and do that a couple of times. Check your towel to see if you're getting any soiling transfer from the spot, and then move it to a clean area and tamp it some more. All of these principles are going to be the same when you're spot cleaning on the rug, which this happens to be a wool rug, so it's nice to know what you're working on. A neutral pH spot cleaner should be fine. We always say test in an inconspicuous area before fully committing to something. But the tamping is also very effective on large spills on the rug as well. So let's say we're done spot cleaning the velvet and it's dry. We came back to it an hour or two, or maybe the next day. We're like, oh, it looks like there's a little flat spot. Maybe I got it too wet in that area. The handheld steamer is going to be one of your best friends when it comes to velvet. So plug it in. I like distilled water in here because distilled water has no minerals. And It's going to keep the machine cleaner and working better for longer, but it's also not going to spew out any minerals and cause any water marking on your fabric as well. So then you can steam just a little bit to kind of loosen up the fibers. You can take, technically you could take your tamping brush and just lightly brush with the pile, and that should help reset some of the velvet. You could take the microfiber, as long as it's clean, and go over that area as well. You can go with the pile to the north-south side, and then with the pile to the east-west side, west side. And then that will help separate the individual fibers in the velvet and allow it to look more like it was before you started spot cleaning it. Because when it dries and like gets too wet and it dries slow and it gets all clumpy together, that's what gives it that weird like wet Yorkshire Terrier dog look. So that's going to be the primary ways we're going to deal with these particular pieces. And I think it's time to move on to another room.